So what makes this game so worthwhile to play in your opinion?
Well, what's not to love? It's a game with beautiful graphics, a finely crafted soundtrack, and amazing gameplay design that has a difficulty that really shows you how good you're getting at the game as you play it. I mean, you've played the trilogy, haven't you?
Well, no.
Well, you've played the first game, right?
Actually, I haven't even played the
You
first
son of a...
Okay.
So in my hometown growing up, there was a video game store called Meadows Video. Uh-oh. Anyway, they would every once in a while update their catalog. You'd normally walk into the store, you could see all the VHS tapes. I guess DVDs did cross into that era. And when I was growing up, they had Super Nintendo games in there, and one day they said, hey, let's buy a bunch of Nintendo 64 games, a bunch of PlayStation games, and we'll sell the Super Nintendo games. So guess what Super Nintendo game I bought? It was just the right price, you know, a game that had been thoroughly loved. Wait, you gotta see it. Here it is. So this is the original case that the video game store would use when they rented a game to you. And they would butcher the box up, and they would put every side into this case for you to enjoy. I guess for them to know which game it was that you were renting, and for you to know what game you were renting. But you see you lose the top and the sides. Anyway, ooh, the phone numbers on this guy. Anyway, so the inside of the case doesn't really have any, like, little bits to hold it in place, but here is our copy. There's a little barcode. Little barcode they would scan to ring us up so we could rent it. And yeah, I just keep this little guy on there because I treasure this game. Ooh, my goodness, I didn't realize how worn that top edge was. Anyway, we got the other two, just so you know. And playing these games as a child, they were incredibly difficult, but you realized, even as a kid, how amazing these games were. The graphics were just that impressive. Before you even knew the word graphics, you were looking at this game and it was just magical to look at. But it really kicked your butt. You were a little kid, you were bad at games, and you were trying your best just to get past the second level, the third level. You were just constantly being tested, holding yourself up against it to see how good you were doing, how good you were becoming. I still remember the first time beating the first boss of the first game, and that was an incredible moment. So this sort of led me down a path of the games that I would enjoy in the future. Games that were difficult or have some difficulty, and they would allow me an opportunity to show my determination. And through that determination, I would probably experience some pain and suffering along the way, realizing that I don't have adequate skill yet, but eventually seeing that fledgling ability grow and to foster that ability to beat the game. And back then, for Super Nintendo games, they were still coming off of that era of old Nintendo games that were Nintendo hard, that were made so difficult so that people couldn't just rent them and beat them and then return them and that was it, that you couldn't beat it so you'd want to rent it again. And so these games were similarly difficult, although much more well-crafted and designed. And I'm about to tell you all about Donkey Kong Country 2's well-crafted design, okay? You just hang in there. So the first game was a little bit tougher, and the second game only came out a year later, so it was made really quickly. They just took that first game and built upon it and shoved another one out the door, just like the Mega Man series had done before them. So something I'd like to do on my channel that I haven't really seen other channels do yet is to review the achievements from the website Retroachievements. It's a website where you can make your own account and then log into it once you're on an emulator that they support. And then you can get achievements for retro games, just like on PlayStation or Xbox. And it's a really fascinating thing. I know there's people in my life that just turn that little notification off immediately as soon as they can. They do not care about achievements, about trophies. They just want to play the game. That's it. And I share the sentiment that when that thing pops up on my screen, it's kind of getting in the way of my game. If it's invasive, if it's distracting me, I don't like that. But there have been achievements in my life that have improved my experience with a game that I've thoroughly enjoyed and didn't really know where to go from there, and I still wanted to play it, well, that's where the achievements or the trophies would come in and help me out. So I'll go over my thoughts on the game first, and then I'll go over my thoughts on the retro achievement community and how they've been able to make achievements for this game. But let's get into talking about the game, shall we? So to quickly brush over the plot of the first game, Donkey Kong has a big hoard of bananas, Rool steals the bananas and wants to take out Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong actually ends up taking out Rool. And this leads into the second game where Donkey Kong gets kidnapped by Rool, and Diddy Kong, his partner in the previous game, and Diddy Kong's girlfriend, Dixie Kong, they follow King Rool back to his island, Crocodile Isle. And Rool catches wind of this, so he sends minions out throughout Crocodile Isle to hopefully catch Diddy and Dixie Kong as well. And this is something that if you didn't take in the story through the manual or some other means, that the game over screen might not make sense to you. When I was a kid, I didn't really realize why they were behind bars if you got a game over. They had gotten captured as well. I mean, it just makes way too much sense if you pay attention to things, and I wasn't very good at that. Now, this game is just amazing in its design. If you take a look at Crocodile Isle right as you start the beginning of the game, you immediately see this giant illuminated crocodile face. And it's glowing from the inside. You're not quite sure why yet. You haven't figured that out. But it mirrors Donkey Kong Island. An island that's essentially a giant head resembling Donkey Kong. It's really an ominous looking place, and it clearly sets the scene that you are on the enemy's turf. And the first world we're going to is Gangplank Galleon. Now, I think this place is an excellent start to the adventure. It's really adventurous and piratey, and it looks like they even crashed the ship a little bit, rushing back home to take DK somewhere else. And this might even be the ship that we beat King Rool on in the first game. Getting right into the first level, Pirate Panic, it's so piratey. You can hear the ambiance in the soundtrack, the creaking boards of the boat, and the waves in the distance. By the way, this game has amazing music throughout. And the enemies you come across are fitting right into the theming. There's a rat, of course these pirate ships have rats on them. There's a dude with a peg leg. It's perfect! And there's a little note for you that tells you exactly what's going on in the story in the game, but not all the details, just to set the scene a little. And further along in the level, Rambi's here. He's a returning buddy from Donkey Kong Country 1, and a great way to introduce you to that animal buddy mechanic. He's really just a powerhouse. He can smash through anybody if he just bumps into him. He can jump on anything. It's awesome. Also of note in this level, the first DK coin is right in your face. You can't miss it even if you tried. Well, I could see somebody missing it. The real name is apparently Video Game Hero Tokens, named by the character Cranky Kong in the game, but everybody online just calls them DK coins, and the reason why I say that is because they're very difficult to find throughout the game. You'll probably get through the game and find maybe 10 of the 40 coins available, so you're gonna be looking them up, and everybody just says DK coin. Some people say Hero coin, but most people say DK coin. By the way, if you want to see any detailed maps of these levels all at once instead of scrubbing through a video of somebody else playing it, the website dkc-atlas.com is where you want to go. It has detailed maps with lots of toggles to turn on and off of every layer of sprite work. You can turn the enemies off. It even has certain ones turned off right away, like the secrets that you might want to find yourself if you're playing the game. I just think it's very tastefully done, and it's apparently still being worked on, but the website as is wonderful. It helped me find something called a warp barrel, which I had never come across in my many playthroughs of these games. There are random hidden spots that you would never think to go on your own, but if you do, there is a barrel that will shoot you into a room that you walk through, and it teleports you right to the end of the level. And these hidden barrels are quite often really early in each level, and I never bumped into one. They're super hidden. They're not really meant for you to find unless you're just bored out of your mind, just running around, throwing your partner all over the place trying to hit one. I wasn't even aware of their existence. So as a major fan of this game, I feel like I've been living a lie. The second level of Gangplank Galleon is Main Brace Mayhem. It's a new level theme where you're up in the rigging of the ship, and it's got that wonderful ambience. Once again, it's very windy sounding up here, and it's a vertical level where you're going from the bottom to the top. And it's the first level that introduces you to the ball and cannon mechanic. a mechanic where you pick up the cannonball and you have to make sure you take it with you, that you don't drop it, you don't lose it, and as soon as you get to the cannon, it will go into the cannon and then you can go into the cannon with it and get shot into a bonus level. So this is the only way for you to be able to use the cannon. If you just got to it without the cannonball, you wouldn't be going anywhere. And up next is Cranky's Monkey Museum. Cranky being the resident old geezer of the game, also the one who gives you tips about the game. He was in the first one as well, doing the same thing. And these tips are actually very helpful if you don't feel like looking up things online. And he's basically just telling you where bonus barrels are in each level so that you can get every bonus room. Gangplank Galleon is the third level, and it features a dynamic sunset. I'm sure I noticed it in the past, but this playthrough I just blitzed through this level and didn't really take it into consideration. And that's why I'm praising DKC Atlas, because on that screen as I scrolled through, the sunset was happening as I looked at the level. So that was amazing. It reminded me how well designed graphically this game is. It's a beautiful way to portray a level, especially on a pirate ship. After that, you get the ability to go see Wrinkly Kong at Kong College. Wrinkly seems like the grandma figure to the Kongs in the game, and this is where you can save the game. Now, at every Kong College, the first save is free, but the next ones are going to cost you 2 banana coins each. Now, in each level, you should be able to find at least a couple banana coins, so I wouldn't feel too weird about this mechanic. But if you ever turn off the game, all of your collected 1-ups and banana coins just go right back down. Banana coins down to 0, and your 1-ups, I think they go down to 4 or 5. And it's not that nice. And the reason why I even mention this, you might be thinking, well, if you just played it on the PC, you might have used save states, and then you don't have to worry about those things. But hey, I played this game legit because Retroachievements has a category for people that just want to try to do the achievements, and then people that are doing them without using save states or any sort of cheating. So I'm doing that. I'm playing the game, no save states, just playing it as intended. And I got to experience that a few times where I boot the game back up again and I'm broke. So I figured out a couple of ways to farm some coins. Wrinkly also has a lot of information available, especially about the final boss of each world and how to go about them, but she's basically telling you a few little mechanics that if you didn't have a manual or didn't look it up online to read it, you would never know about these game mechanics and would never be utilizing them. The most common one being the somersault button. Every Kong can do a little somersault attack. You can do that off of a ledge and then jump in midair. So it's really useful to get much more distance going off of an edge. Oh, the first underwater level of the game, Lockjaw's Locker. So there's a little bit out of the water, and it's mostly underwater. And it's an understandable trope that people don't really enjoy underwater levels in games. They don't like the feeling of being underwater. Most programmers make it more restrictive, or the movement is just entirely different and you have to learn a brand new way to move these characters. But it's definitely a good take in this game. It's not super slow, it does slow you down a little bit, but I feel like I could get a handle on it more because pushing up and down on the D-pad does influence your swimming. It's kind of the bobbing style that Mario does. You push the jump button and they'll swim a little bit, but pushing up and down does affect that. It's also the first level with another animal buddy from a previous game, On Guard. He is the swordfish that you get to ride underwater, and it feels awesome when you have him. You can just plow through any enemies just by bumping into them. You don't have to push a button at all and he will just stab them. But you can also push the somersault button and he will do that stab anytime you want, which is perfect for maneuvering yourself out of the way of danger. Oh, another thing you might notice is the level of the water will change in these levels as well, which keeps it feeling different from a lot of other games. Next up is Swanky's Bonus Bonanza, and he's got a few quizzes for you in the form of a game show. Now, every quiz you do will sequentially earn you a life, and then 2 lives, and then 3 lives. And they cost you banana coins to do, so this is a thing that you need to think about. Okay, I want to save up these coins. And oh, I forgot to mention, the coins are used to buy the tips from Cranky and the tips from Wrinkly as well. So you need a lot of these coins. And between all 3 of them, Crankly, Wrinkly, and Swanky, if you talk to them and do everything they have on their list every time in every world, that is an achievement from Retroachievements. Well, it's not just one achievement, they have one achievement each. And following Swanky is Topsail Trouble. It's the first level with a new animal buddy, Rattly, which is a little bit tough to say, I gotta admit, but it's really fun to see a new animal buddy in the game finally. Unfortunately, he controls a little bit awkwardly, stopping every time he makes contact with the ground, because he's basically a snake that's a spring. Also, you might have noticed in this level, the background is more foreboding, even though it's another one of these rigging levels. And seeing as it's a vertical level, Rattly is really useful here in getting a lot of height and being able to traverse this level well. And finally, we come to Funky Kong. I mean, I feel like everybody should know Funky Kong by now. He's been in Mario Kart Wii. They just added him to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, finally. And he's the character in this game that allows you to travel between worlds, which is interesting because you think that you just be able to run anywhere you want, but not in these games. In these games, you gotta pay a little bit of money to Funky Kong, and he gives you access to his plane in that world, and you can leave that world. So if you're there, you might as well give him the money. You won't be able to go into any other world at that point, but you could go right back in there. And now in the future, if you ever were to go to him, it would be free at that point. And to wrap up the first world of the game is the first boss level, Crow's Nest. Now, Crow is a massive version of the mini Neki enemy that's been flying at you in the game. And you can see that the wind is really rushing by, but it doesn't affect your movement in this level. What you're supposed to do is grab the eggs that he knocks off of his nest and to throw it at him. And if you're skilled enough, you can jump on top of the egg and get it to stop early, and then hit him with it right away. And after a well-earned victory versus Crow, who really isn't looking too hot at this point, we make our way to Crocodile Cauldron, which is that giant face I mentioned earlier. On the inside of it, there is a volcano. Now, I feel like there might have been a little bit of disconnect between the design of Crocodile Isle and what's inside each of these worlds. Also, you may have noticed that there is a pirate ship in the lava. I'm not sure how that's supposed to work. I'm not going to talk about it, just going to move on. Now, the first level is Hothead Hop, and there's lava everywhere, and it gives you that feeling of unease, but the design is fitting for a second world. It's actually not too bad, tiptoeing toward utilizing what the Kongs can do to deal with that dangerous terrain. And once again, the soundtrack is just giving you that ambiance. You can hear the lava bubbling in the background, and also, there's another new animal buddy, Squitter. Now, he is one of my favorites in the whole series. He has a projectile web attack and a web that you can make as a platform anywhere you'd like. So it's a ton of fun being able to go everywhere with him and also being able to take out enemies at a distance. And following that is the first time that you'll be able to see Clubba. In each world starting with this one, Clubba is basically guarding the sparkly golden barrel, and he has a toll of 15 Krem coins to be able to jump into this barrel. Now, what are Krem coins? Well, we talked about bonus levels earlier, and at the end of every bonus level is a Krem coin. So if you were able to collect 15 of them, then you could hop into this golden sparkly barrel, which is really alluring. I feel like you understand how valuable this golden barrel is, and it'll motivate you to get these coins and to be able to see what this golden barrel is all about. Now, next up is Swanky, followed by the second level, Cannon's Claim. And the music in this level is really special. It's my personal favorite in the whole game, and you can find many remixes online. It's a favorite of many other fans as well. And it doesn't really set that ambiance quite as good as the other tracks do, but it's just perfect for this level. I feel like it fits it really well. This level also commits a huge freaking sin of game design. There is a bonus level immediately if you run to the right and fly off the platform. Now, in this bonus level, you jump into barrels that have the Kong's faces, and you have to have both Kongs. They'll give you a barrel to get the other one if you don't have them, and you just learn about this barrel mechanic and shoot your way to the top and get the Krem coin. So what's the problem? Well, after the first set of barrels, they shoot you onto a new platform that covers the entire floor and you can't go back down. Guess what's hidden in the bottom corner over a huge gap that you would never think to jump over because there's two cannon barrels in your face? It's the DK coin for this level. They hid it there. Yeah, I said that they would be hidden really well and that they'd be tough to find, but every other DK coin in the game is in the level, not in a bonus level, in the level. This is the only one. There's no other way for you to learn that it's there and you'll never find it on your own, and if you do, I applaud you. That's amazing, good for you, but it doesn't make it good design. It's just that you're so hurried to get through this level because there's a timer as well. So you don't feel like exploring this bonus level at all. You have a timer ticking, you just know what to do. You've done bonus levels before. You just do what it's showing you to do, and you try to get to the end because you really want to get that Krem coin. But that design choice aside, once you finish this level, you have access to Funky Kong. Now you could pay for his plane and take it back to the first world and save immediately if you weren't super good at the game yet. This would be a good strategy for you. Otherwise, you might lose there, and then you might not have saved since a couple levels before Crow's Nest. So that might be a good choice. And once you've taken the plane back to Crocodile Cauldron, the next level is Lava Lagoon, which is another water level. And the water's really hot and will hurt you. But guess what? We have a new animal buddy, and he doesn't follow you or let you ride him, but you jump on him and he spits. And his spit cools down the water. And his name is Clapper. So you jump on Clapper, he spits, and he cools the water, and then you can swim through his spit. I mean, you can swim through the cooled water and get through the level. Now, one thing of note in a level like this, for players that aren't as comfortable with the game yet and the controls, you might not feel like exploring and finding all the bonus rooms in this level. I know for my playthrough, I didn't grab them the first time through. I was just thinking about getting to the end of the game. And following this level is Red Hot Ride, which I really like. It's kind of a comfy level, and why would you say that? You're on these hot air balloons. You're flying over an endless sea of lava. How is that comfy? Well, if you hold left and right while you're sitting on the hot air balloon, you don't run off of it. You're actually in control of the left and right movement of this balloon. And because of this control, you're falling slowly and you hit these hot air streams coming out of the lava, and you're really not in a lot of danger. Never mind the fact that you also get to ride Rambi in this level on top of the balloon, which makes you into a flying tank. You just gotta bump into everything and they're gone. So the contrast of the past level being a more stressful swimming level, and this one being just a comfy float all the way to the end, I really liked that. I felt like they were managing my emotions at this point. And up next we have another amazing level. It's called Squawk's Shaft. Now, who's Squawks? Well, Squawks is the next rideable animal buddy. He's a parrot that you get to hang on to, and he has a projectile. He spits an egg straight out of his mouth and kills stuff with it. It flies at an arc. It's kind of unruly. Squawks flies around in kind of an unruly way, but it's quick and just snappy enough that you can get good at it. And when you do, it feels amazing. Now, Squawks being a parrot seems to really fit into the pirate theme going on in this game. Whereas in the first game, the bird helper was an ostrich named Espresso that you could ride. And I felt like that really fit in with the whole giant gorilla, rhinoceros, we're in Africa sort of. Now the next level is the boss level, Cleaver's Kiln. And Cleaver is actually the sword, wouldn't you know it? He's not that flaming arm, don't let that distract you. It's a false sense of anchorage, because as soon as you get a couple of hits on him, he starts flying after you. And to me, the boss's death in this level is kind of graphic. You bust the sword and it spews lava, I guess? Krem Quay. The next world is Krem Quay. I said this wrong as a child, Krem Quay. Didn't know how to pronounce key yet. I've forgiven my past self. You should forgive your past self. And the first level is Barrel Bayou. It's a swamp-themed level, brand new theme. The moss-covered boardwalk, the giant leaves to step on, the bulrushes or cattails, whatever you want to call them. I don't know where you're from. So all this different terrain kind of links together to up the difficulty just a little bit, and you're gonna feel it. The next level is Glimmer's Galleon, and it commits that sin of being a dark level. You start the level right away, and you have no light, and you can barely see where to go, but you can see some bananas, so you follow them along, and you find your next animal buddy, Glimmer, and he is a follower, so whatever you're doing, he's gonna light the way. And one thing that's not great about Glimmer is whenever you move from left to right or right to left, he flashes us right in the face. So keep the brightness low. Now this level as well has probably the most secret DK coin in the game. And I'm not saying it's designed poorly. It's not in a place that you wouldn't find per se, but you just kind of have to bump along every wall until you find it. I never found this one on my own. I had to look this one up. I wasn't gonna try to find it on my own. I gave up. And I don't care. And following that is a level called Crockhead Clamor. I forgot to mention in Hothead Hop that it's called Hothead Hop because there was crocodile heads in the lava that you were hopping on. And in this level, they come back. They're called Crockheads. Crockhead Clamor. And you're jumping on these crocodile heads in the level. Now they are further down in about the second half of the level. There's a few opportunities with these cattails for you to climb on that you'll see these other enemies, clingers, which they're a climbing style enemy. They climb vertical ropes, and they were in the first world a few times. Now, when I was a kid, I would try to kill them, and occasionally I would hop on their head and get these clingers, but I found it really difficult to take them out when they were on the ropes, on the rigging of the pirate ship for some reason. Like, my Kongs wanted to grab the rope more than they wanted to jump on their head. I didn't know how to control it back then too well, but this level was cool because just the single bull rush, they would climb up it, and their head was poking out one side, and I felt like I didn't have anything getting in my way of connecting with knocking them off of the bull rush. Cattail bull rush, what do we say more here? I think we say cattail more. Anyway, it was nice. It was a nice way for me to get used to taking out this enemy, so in future playthroughs, I would have an easier time at the start of the game, and this is something that I feel this game does well. It teaches you how to play it as you move along, that it benefits you if you were to play the game again. It's just another reason why I love this game and think it's so cool. And the next level is Rattle Battle. And this is a fun level where you get to play through the whole level as Rattly, but not riding him. There's these barrels you can hop into that transform you into the animal itself. And so when you get hit, they don't just run away from you. You take a piece of health, basically. If you have 2 Kongs, you have that extra health. And if you only have 1, then you just would die. But grabbing a buddy barrel or a Kong barrel will give you that health back. And the reason why people enjoy this level so much is because it's the only level in this game with the music track called Snaky Shanty, and it's basically a remix of the boss theme from the first game. It takes the intro to the boss theme and makes it really fun to listen to. This might also be the first level where you realize that Rattly can jump on the zingers. That's right, zinger with a hard R. And this is something that's going to come in handy later, so they've set you up for success. Now, Slime Climb. Ooh, Slime Climb. I got mixed feelings about this level. So basically, the water is rising, and there is a Snapjaw character in the water. You've seen him in the water levels. He just comes at you. He's not that hard to dodge. But in this level, he's faster, and he comes at you immediately when you hit the water. So I feel like this level could be just fine if the water level rose at a reasonable rate, but it does rise too quickly for even the fastest player. You are going to touch that water. And maybe now that I think about it, they might have wanted you to be forced to engage with this killer homing fish. It's not entirely impossible to dodge, but it is really freaking tough. But up next is Bramble Blast, and it's the first level with this Brambles theme in it, and it has this iconic track called Stickerbush Symphony that many of you might know from Super Smash Bros. Brawl. They made an absolutely epic update to that track for Brawl, and I remember listening to that track when I was in high school on my MP3 player. Yeah, I'm a little bit old. And this track, it's just perfection. I don't know if I've said the artist yet, David Wise. Yeah, this is the first time I've said it, right? David Wise. He is a brilliant composer and just makes all of these games come to life. But back to the level's design, the aesthetic is gorgeous. It's almost whimsical. You feel high up in the sky in these brambles, and I feel like they're trying to make a level design where they can utilize everything that gets you up into the air, because there's not a lot of planks of wood to step on, not a lot of platforms, so you're constantly using mechanics like those cannon barrels and squawks in these levels to get around. And following that is the boss level of Krem Quay, Cudgel's Contest. Now Cudgel looks just like Clubba, except he's gray, so maybe he's the fight model, I don't know. But he's a deceptively simple boss. He just jumps, and comes back down, and it causes a little earthquake, so you want to jump yourself when he hits the ground so you don't get shook, because if you're shaken, you can't move. And then if you're close enough to him, he will just swing his giant club and whack you. All you have to do is be far enough away, and then as soon as he's finished doing his little dance, a TNT barrel appears and you throw it at him. For some reason, I know how many times you gotta do it. You gotta hit him 6 times, 4 fingers and 2 thumbs times, and then he's dead. Oh my goodness, this stool is killing me! You better say thank you in the comments or some jazz. Alright, here we go. And now that you've murder-lated Cudgel, it's time to go to Krazy Kremland. And they got this fascinating design idea to take that main wasp enemy, the Zinger, and make it a focus of some levels. So they have these wasp nests, and they mix it with this theme park area, and it's got these giant, huge park statues. So the first level is Hornet Hole. And it's got sticky floors, which are neat in their own right because you can't just run over them. It stops you. You can't move when you hit these sticky floors. So you gotta jump to move forward. But it also has sticky walls, which are very cool because you just jump into the wall and your Kong sticks there. And it's not like other games where you have like a wall kick where you can just keep bouncing up the wall. It sticks you to the wall, but only in the spot with the honey, and so it's not a tool that you have. It's a tool that the level has, and so you just experience it in this environment. It allows them to craft very specific scenarios, and I love it. And Squitter's back. He's in this level too, and guess what? He doesn't stick to any of the honey, so you're just causing havoc, running through this level, shooting everything, and going anywhere you want. After that is Target Terror, another new level theme in the form of a rickety roller coaster. I actually used some official art of the game to put as a background for my stream when I was streaming this game. That's right, I stream the games I'm reviewing. If you want, just come on down to the stream and you can watch me play it and experience it with me. So each one of these roller coaster levels that you will play in this game, they all have a unique gimmick. And I feel like this game is so good at that, they will take a similar themed level, but they will change the goalposts a bit. They will make it slightly different so that you're not just doing the same exact thing over again. And in this first go through on the roller coaster, you have to hit these barrels that open up the gate in front of them. So if you don't jump into this barrel, you're not going to make it through, and when you smash into it, it'll open for you, but you will lose a Kong. Oh, also the track, another iconic track, it's called Disco Train, and it's so good. It's wonderful. Disco Train, listen to it. Up next is Bramble Scramble, another Bramble level, and it's probably the level that veterans of this game think of when it comes to that track, Stickerbush Symphony. And in this version of the Bramble level, Squawks is amongst the brambles and you're able to fly him through there. There's also a secret in this level that's really tough to find, and I don't feel like it's designed super well, but there's one spot where you see a banana past a wall. And you might just say, well, I can't get that banana, but if you jump into the wall, it's a false wall. And then you get Squitter, and then you're going up through this area full of goodies, and then you're done using Squitter. But if you pay extra attention, there's another banana in a wall. So if you get up to those coins there, and then you go to that banana and try to collect it, it's another false wall. And that's where the DK coin is. You're welcome. And after that excursion is Rickety Race, another roller coaster level, but what's the gimmick? It's a race, sort of. You're at the back of the pack, and there is 10 carts ahead of you, and all you have to do is catch up to them as fast as you can by holding the direction and dodging all the obstacles as you go, but you can't just bump into the back of them. You have to hop onto them to take them out, and every single one of them you hop onto, you get a little reward for doing so. So if you can make it all the way to first place, you get the DK coin. I also found this level really satisfying because it's encouraging you to go as fast as you can, to not be so careful. So to catch up to them, you're just risking life and limb, which might cause you to miss some of the bonus levels or things like that, but it's a fun level to play, so I don't mind playing it again. Following Rickety Race is Mudhole Marsh, and the devs were really good at tucking in level themes in any world that they could. So it's a swamp level, but not in Krem Quay. Now you're in Krazy Kremland, and it's a swamp level again. In Krem Quay, there was a brambles level. Every world seems to get a water level. I feel like they did a really good job at sprinkling them in and designing the maps of the worlds to make sense with that. So you're going to be in a marsh. Well, guess what? There's a little marsh hidden in the wasp nests. And following that is Ramby Rumble. Now this is a really fun take on these honey levels because Ramby, when you get to him further on in the level, he's not affected by the stickiness, he's not affected by running into a zinger head on, and he can also jump on them, so you're just going to tear through this level. But there's also a little bit of a challenge in here too. You fall through a certain corridor and then there's a giant zinger chasing you down, so you need to run. You are not the attacker in this scenario, and it's a pretty fun little chase sequence. Now after you're done tearing up the hive, the next level is the boss level, King Zing Sting. In this level you get transformed into Squawks so that you can chase down King Zing and shoot his stinger with eggs, which is quite a small hitbox. And this level also tests your off-screen awareness. Now this boss moves quite slow to start, but with every successive hit on his stinger, he moves faster and faster, and he runs across the screen, going up and down as he does so, and he will very quickly get off screen from you. You can't see where he's coming from, and so this level really tests your ability to control Squawks well. So if you weren't good at controlling Squawks, this level will really train you to get better. Oh, my butt cheeks. I can't tell if it's better. And after you defeat him, you make your way up to that foggy forest we saw earlier, Gloomy Gulch. Now, Gloomy Gulch is really leaning into the spookiness factor of this island that's dedicated to the enemy team, the Kremlings. It's kind of creepy, it kind of feels more dangerous, and I feel like that's what should come along with being on enemy turf. Another reason why I love this game's design so much. Even our beloved Mario World had quite a great design at the time, but this game really took it to the next level. Everybody was raving about the graphics. And so for them to just cook, they were just cooking. They were like, we got the best graphics in town. What if we just designed everything perfectly as well? Just, I love you. I love you so much. I'm gonna cook you so good. Ghostly Grove is our first level in this area, and a new level theme. You get a feeling you're kind of on a bit of an embankment or a cliffside in a creepy forest, and the gimmick here is these ropes that are actually ghosts. So they're not there all the time. You hop on them, if you're on them at a bad time, they will disappear, you will fall to your death. I gotta stop saying death. I don't think the YouTube algorithm's gonna like that. Death. And these haunted forest levels, they will often have the spiny enemy, the porcupine, and they will also have the clamp-on, which is the next version of the claptrap from the first game. Everybody knows the claptrap. Don't say you don't know the claptrap. You know the claptrap. Now you know the claptrap if you didn't know the claptrap. And the thing about spinies and clamp-ons is you can't jump on a spiny. He's a porcupine. It's a bad idea. You also cannot roll into the back of one, so you have to roll into them head-on, and that's the only way you can take them out. And when it comes to clamp-ons, you can't roll into them head-on. They will take you out, so you either jump onto them or you roll into the back of them. And occasionally in these levels, they will put a clamp-on with a spiny behind him. So you can't roll into this guy, and you can't jump onto this guy or get him from the back. So you have to jump onto this guy and then roll into this guy. It's a really cool design. Following Ghostly Grove is Haunted Hall. Guess what? Another roller coaster level so soon. And its gimmick is really cool, and there's also a cool retro achievement that I will mention briefly that goes along with this level. So in this level, there's a spooky, piratey ghost that's chasing you as you're on the roller coaster. And to make it through, you need to collect green plus sign barrels and avoid the red negative sign barrels to keep your timer above 0, because when it reaches 0, the ghost is going to attack you. So basically you have to get through each of these gauntlets that become increasingly more difficult as you go through. And now about that achievement, the achievement says, just get through this level and don't touch a single minus barrel. Only touch the positive ones if you're going to hit any of them. Don't hit the negative ones. Now it's really hard to do this. And that's why I like it so much. My only problem with this achievement though is if you hit the star barrel, which is the checkpoint in any of these levels, you would have to go into a different level and hit that star barrel to reset Haunted Hall to try the achievement again, which was kind of sad. I think it would be much better for people who are doing this with save states because they could just save state before they start the level. But that was gonna mess with my hardcore mode run, like whatever I'm trying to do here with no save states and cheats. So I just toughed it out. I would try it. If I failed, I did another level and then I'd come back. Anyway, on to Gusty Glade, another one of these haunted forest levels. And finally, they're messing with my in-air control. Nice. Now the wind in this level is blowing left to right horizontally, and it's affecting your movement, and so you got all these tiny platforms to jump on, you're climbing on things, and you're trying to time your jumps when the wind is going the right way. It's not so bad to deal with. You do have Dixie, which I failed to mention, she has a helicopter move. She can just spin in midair, and it's amazing. It's wonderful. She's a little bit slower, a tiny bit slower than Diddy Kong in most aspects. We love the helicopter twirl, and anybody who's new to playing the game will want to play as Dixie Kong. So if you're playing co-op with somebody, that's player 2, alright? Which is actually hilarious, because in the first game, you were playing as big, strong Donkey Kong. He could beat up anybody, and Diddy Kong couldn't defeat every enemy, but he was faster and more agile, and everybody loved to play him because they felt like they had more control moving around. So player 2 in that game was also the easier character to play as, and player 1 would normally be the person who owns the game, the person that has more experience with the game, and that's just good game design, guys. This is amazing. Parachute Panic is the next level, and it has an interesting gimmick, where there is another parrot here, another animal buddy. His name is Quawks. It's not Squawks. He's purple. Purple is Quawks. Green is Squawks. And Quawks doesn't shoot eggs, and he doesn't fly up. So you have to float down the wasp nest here and avoid the zingers and hopefully make it to the end. Now, the interesting thing about this game is at the time, they didn't have a name for purple Squawks. And this name actually came from Japanese translators who were translating the manual. They named him Quawks. And then in the future, we adopted this name in the game Donkey Kong Barrel Blast. That was the first one where we got the name Quawks in the West. I never owned DK Barrel Blast, but a friend of ours did, and that game is messed up. And following this, the last platform level in this world is Web Woods. You guessed it, it's a level with Squitter, but not right away. The introduction to this level, you're running through as the Kongs, and you encounter this enemy that's named Cutlass. Now, this isn't the first time we've seen Cutlass. We saw him back in the swamp, but now Cutlass has a new color, and that means he's a new variant, and he does something slightly different. So Cutlass will swing his big sabers down on you to hit you, and you just have to wait till he hits the ground and he gets them stuck, and then you jump on him when he does that. But this guy doesn't get him stuck. He barely gets him stuck, just whacks the ground, yoinks him out, so your window is really small. And I've always had a tough time with these guys, so if you're playing this game on my recommendation, I forgive you for dying to these guys almost every time. And after this comes the boss level, Creepy Crow. Now you know this guy. We just fought Crow earlier, and we straight up killed his ass. He's a ghost now, so we gotta fight him again. It's an interesting boss fight. You avoid him, you avoid all of his minions, and one of them isn't a ghost. So you hop on him, you get the barrel to throw at him, and you hit him once. And then you have to climb to go up to the next area. And when you're climbing, he will be shooting the giant eggs from the first boss level at you. The first time is a lot simpler. The second time, he's also shooting them horizontally. It's tough, and the reason why it's tough is because to avoid the horizontal ones, you're just climbing upwards, but to avoid the vertical ones, you need to move left to right. And going left to right on these ropes with the Kongs, I've always felt it to be kind of slow. And I died on this guy a few more times than I want to admit. But putting my pride aside, beating him gets you into K. Rool's Keep. And you're so high up there that there's snow, and there's a great view of DK Island, and it's a really interesting place for him to have to build a castle. I mean, he couldn't really figure out anywhere else. He ends up putting all these supports, and it just looks really unsafe. So yeah, K. Rool's Keep, kind of crazy. Anyway, the first level is Arctic Abyss. New level theme, it's based around the snow up high, but it's like an icy cavern. It's got all these sections full of chilly water, but it's not too cold that you can't swim in it. Even though it's packed with lots of enemies in the water, it's bright and it's clear. So I feel like it's a nice little respite from what we've been dealing with. Now I will bring up here that the next 3 levels were rearranged when they remade this game for Game Boy Advance. So if you're playing the Game Boy Advance version, this next level is actually going to be the 4th level of the world, but for the regular original game, it's the 2nd level. It's called Windy Well, and it's got a great gimmick in this mineshaft theme where it's blowing you vertically upwards. And it doesn't push you up super quickly. You actually still have control pushing up and down. And if you don't push, it's still a reasonable speed. So all you're asked to do is to move left and right and to dodge things as you're slowly floating upwards. So you'll be dealing with zingers either stationary or flying all over the place, or you'll be dealing with these boomerang hooks from the enemy Crook. Yo ho, near the hooks we'll never go. And they didn't leave anything out. They also experimented with raising you up with the wind and then letting you go for a bit and catching you with the wind again quickly, and you have to get underneath zingers while it's doing that. Now the next level is Castle Crush, and I really appreciate the new level theme, but I never really realized that all of these castle theme levels are vertical style levels. And in this one, it's a bit of an elevator, a giant platform that's moving you up, and you gotta move left and right to dodge the ceiling. And in this level, you can find a Rambi barrel and turn into Rambi and bash through one of the walls later on. But Retroachievements had a cool achievement for you to do in this level, and I have to mention it. Basically, the idea is that there's a buddy barrel early on in the level, and so if you were down a Kong, you'd want to break it open and get your buddy. But you can hold onto it and you can carry it with you, and I didn't even know you could do this, but you can push down on the controller and then let go of the holding button, and they will put the barrel down and it'll be just fine. So you have to take care of this barrel and run back and forth and put it down and kill the enemies and pick it back up and run back and forth and take this barrel all the way up to that wall that you would be destroying with Rambi, and as soon as you break the wall with the DK barrel, you pop the achievement. I just thought that was such a cool idea. Like, somebody noticed that you could do that and said, that's a great idea for an achievement, and they were right! It was so much fun for me to try and do, and I actually ended up getting it on the first try, and I just had to pat myself on the back. Anyway, that achievement, amazing, brilliant, 10 out of 10. I didn't think I'd get more out of this game than I already have, but here we are. Our 4th level, Game Boy Advance's 3rd level, is the next one, and you're gonna like it. It's called Clapper's Cavern. Basically, we're back to using Clapper's spit to cool down the cold water. So you were cooling down the hot water, now you're cooling down this cold water, and what happens to cold water when you cool it down? Well, it freezes. And you can step on it, and it's slippery. So you have a fun time running through this level, slipping and sliding underneath things, and trying to get through before it turns back into water. Now the next level, Chain Link Chamber, is another vertical castle level where you're climbing up chains to get to the top once again. But in this level, there are these gray clobber enemies. Now I haven't mentioned clobbers yet. There's green, yellow, and gray. And they're basically a Kremling in hiding. They're hiding in a barrel, and the green ones will pop out and they will bump into you and try to knock you off of things, and you just have to hit them once and then you can pick them up as a normal barrel and throw it at something. But the yellow ones, they bump into you and knock bananas out of you when they bump into you before you deal with them. But the gray ones, they knock lives out of you. This is something I had actually completely forgotten, but you can check my reaction here when I re-encountered them for the first time. See you later. Oh, you're not friendly. That's what he's about! We figured it out! That's terrifying! I just lost 2 lives for fun. It's like, it's not even traumatic for the monkeys either. For Diddy and Dixie. They're like, oh, I dropped a balloon. That means nothing to me. Yeah, fun times. This level also has a very sneaky DK coin as well. There's a random single banana floating in the middle of the air, and you have to deduce that at that point horizontally is a false wall that leads you all the way to a DK coin if you continue on. Now after this is Toxic Tower. And Toxic Tower is another one of those rising liquid levels, but this time it's not just the ocean, It is a poisonous, toxic liquid that will hurt you if you touch it. And in a level like this, it's pretty tough to explore, so you might have to play it a couple of times to find everything. But this level does have a redeeming quality, which is the animal buddies. The first section of the level, you transform into Rattly, and of course that'd be great to get up vertically. And then after him is a section with Squawks, and after Squawks is a section with Squitter. All perfect animal buddies for getting up. And the boss level of this world is called Stronghold Showdown. And prepare to edge as you find Donkey Kong and he gets whisked away as you're celebrating. We got fooled, what are you gonna do? Unfortunately, there's no actual boss here to fight, so you just move on to the next world. Now on the world map, a little ladder is now at the top of the castle, and that is the ladder leading to the Flying Krock, the last world of the game. You might not look at this as a last world, maybe you'll look at this as a continuation of the previous world, and that's because there's only one level here to play before the final boss, and that's Screech's Sprint. Now this level is really cool. It takes the Bramble aesthetic and changes it up a bit. Eventually you'll run into this black parrot named Screech, and apparently he's Captain K. Rool's pet parrot, and I never knew this. I mean, it's just the kind of stuff you bump into making a YouTube video. Never mind being a massive freaking nerd. And all you're doing is racing him to the finish. And I never really thought about him this way, but after I learned that tidbit, I'm looking at him more as a mini-boss before you fight K. Rool. So it's really simple. If he crosses the finish line first, you die. Just like in real life. So finally, we're at the final boss of the game. Oh my goodness, I did that. So finally, we're at the last boss level of the game, and it's called K. Rool Duel. Now this is one of those final bosses that I find is much more engaging or enjoyable than a lot of the damage sponge bosses out there, or the multifaceted, multi-staged Final Fantasy style boss gauntlet transforming into another boss gauntlet sort of a situation. And all you have to do in this fight is dodge every cannonball that K. Rool is shooting at you, and eventually you'll be able to pick one up and you'll be able to throw it into his blunderbuss when it starts to suck. And trust me, it's gonna suck. What he's trying to do is to pull you in to get damaged, but if you throw the cannonball into the blunderbuss, it'll do damage to him instead. And later on in this fight, he will shoot different colored smoke that will affect you. It won't do damage to you, it'll just change up what happens. So the first smoke will freeze you, the second red smoke will slow you down, and the third purple smoke will invert your left and right controls. But once you've clogged his gun enough times, he won't even be dead yet, but Donkey Kong will just bust out of the ropes and give him the biggest uppercut you've ever seen. So did we even beat this game? But we're not done! Remember Clubba? Remember those Krem coins? Well, in the game there's 75 Krem coins, and there's 5 different places to give them to Clubba. So if you get into every single one of those golden sparkly barrels, you'll be treated to a whole final secret world. So in Crocodile Cauldron, you will unlock the level Jungle Jinx. Now this is a new level theme, and it has excellent music once again. I don't know, I'm just into what David Wise has to put out. And I remember feeling really intimidated by this level. I mean, by all the levels in the Lost World. I knew that this was a secret area that I had to work really hard to get to, and I understood intuitively that this meant it would be much more difficult. And difficult it is, but not impossible. The gimmick in this level is these giant monster truck tires that you have to have good timing to jump onto, and they will bounce you extremely high, and normally if you hold right you will just be able to jump onto the next one. And each of these Lost World levels also only has one bonus room. And if you've already gotten all the Krem coins to get into this place, why would you be going into bonus levels? Well, each of the 1 bonus levels in every level here has another DK coin. The next level is Black Ice Battle, and I really love this level because it's a slippery ice level, but it's a vertical level and you're going down. I actually really enjoyed this idea. Following that is Clobber Carnage. It's a level based around those clobber barrel enemies, so they're littered throughout the level, but there's also a ton of the other barrels in the game as well in this level. And all of these extra barrels are cannon barrels. There's the ones with your face on them, there's the ones that you control which way they point, and then there's ones that move along long sections of levels with hazards, and if you don't shoot yourself out of the barrel and then get back into that same barrel, you will hit the hazard and get hurt. And the next secret level is Fiery Furnace. It's a lava level with these controllable cannon barrels that you have to navigate through the level, and they're on a timer. So if you don't get through fast enough, some of them are pointing down and you will just get shot into the lava. And the last of the Lost World levels is Animal Antics. It's 5 sections, 1 for each of the rideable animal buddies, and it's a very satisfying level to play through. Although Rattle's section is really small, but I don't think anybody complains about that too much. I had this absolutely goated moment with Rambi, check it out. And the boss level with the final boss, or secret boss, whatever you want to call it, is called Crocodile Core. So the whole time you've been looking at the world map for Lost World, and there's been this crazy rainbow beam coming out of the center area with a giant crocodile face on it. It seems to be an ancient chamber of the Kremlings. And Rool shows up there, he's all washed up from his first beating, but he's got one last gauntlet for you. Now, it's a pretty tough gauntlet, but if you survive it and throw that cannonball into his blunderbussy one more time, he will get blasted right into that rainbow beam, and that's the game. The whole stinking island blows up and sinks into the water, but he seems to get away. I mean, which is fine, because Donkey Kong Country 3 is a bop. So now you get the credits to roll for the second time. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but the first time you get the credits to roll, Cranky has a bit of a podium to see how well you've done in collecting the DK coins. And on the podium is Mario, Yoshi, and Link. But I played so well I bumped Link off before I even got to see him, so here he is. And you know I had to go through the rest of the levels I missed the DK coins in. I got them all, and it gets you 102%. I guess because it's the second game. What have I done? Okay. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about the retro achievements for this game, and I'm so happy to tell you about them. If you haven't made a profile there, go on over to Retro Achievements and make one right now. They're a community that makes achievements for retro games. And in this game, they got some bog standard ones, like a couple of things you've done for the first time in the game, or whenever you beat a boss, you get an achievement for that. But they also have more difficult achievements, like beating a boss without getting hit once, or beating the game completely, or getting 102% in this game. And you can really see the love that they're putting into these achievements because they're doing their best to give them clever names that are either thought up on their own or they're using in-game references. Now, the nature of how this works is you need to use one of their supported emulators, and it's basically watching your gameplay and giving you the achievements at the proper times. And you can't stop some of these achievements halfway. For example, there's an achievement for collecting all the Kong letters in every level of a world in one sitting. Now, if you were to stop halfway through, they don't have a system that can keep track of the Kong letters that you've already collected. And I love this achievement because in the original game, collecting the KONG in a level would net you 1 life. And it didn't really have a major purpose towards the game. You could go through that game and not collect 1 Kong letter, and you could still get 102%. Now, in my playthrough of the game, the first world wasn't that hard to get them all 4, but after that I wasn't really paying attention, and then about halfway through the game I decided, I better pay attention and get them all as I go so that I don't have to go back. I ended up having to go back to Crocodile Cauldron and Krem Quay to collect them, and it wasn't too annoying to do so, except for the couple of levels where they put the letter on the goal pole. Now, the goal pole of each level has a rotation of different things. It might be a single banana, a banana bunch, a coin, or it might be a Kong letter, and those ones are the absolute worst. I had to play the level Squawk's Shaft over and over and over again to get that letter G, because not only was there a roulette, but there was a spinning barrel that you had to sit in and get it to shoot at an angle at the right time. So you're timing the roulette and the spinning barrel that rotate at different intervals, and to get them to line up just right. I figured it out, but I probably played that level like 5 times. Man, screw that letter G in particular. So some of these achievements you'll get from just playing the game, and some of them you'll have to be a little bit more thorough, like talking with Cranky, Wrinkly, and Swanky, and talking with them on each of their points, and then you'll get 1 achievement per Kong. Now, where these achievements really shine is in the level-specific achievements. Some of the mad lads over at Retroachievements have found out really interesting things to do, and they've provided me with some of the most fun I've had in this game in years. A couple of the levels I'd like to mention was Parachute Panic and Fiery Furnace. Now, in Parachute Panic, you normally use Quacks to float down the level, and this is the only level that he is in. But this achievement asks you to hop onto him and to get off right away and to fall without him. So there are some levels where you need to fall with Dixie and her helicopter twirl just to get through the level. And this was actually more challenging than I thought. It was awesome to try. And when it comes to Fiery Furnace's achievement, it's that level with the controllable flying barrels, but the achievement just tells you to collect every single banana. So at the beginning of the level, they remind you, hey, don't forget the bananas at the very start. Above the entrance to the level, you can get up there and collect a few bananas there, and then you're guiding these controllable cannon barrels to collect every single banana, which isn't as easy as it seems because some of these bananas are really out of your way. And then at the end of the level, when you're collecting the last few bananas, it shoots you into a bonus room that has a few more for you. I thought it was a really great idea. Now, I mentioned this a little bit before, but there's those notifications that pop up on screen. And if you leave them all on, they will tell you about the achievements you've gotten, and they will pop on screen to let you know every time you are making progress towards a particularly long achievement. So when I was collecting a Kong letter, it would pop on screen, and I turned that one off right away. I don't need to know that I'm doing it. I understood the concept well enough. I just kept track of it in my head. And here's a little tip as well. If you collect all the Kong letters in a level, you can leave the level by pressing start and select, and you don't have to go all the way to the end. You can just go do the next one. So when I was cleaning it up, it was a lot faster. But some of these pop-ups that I left on, I wanted to see when I got achievements, but I got a couple of achievements during the final cutscene after beating the game 102%. And it covered up part of the island exploding and then sinking into the sea, and I didn't appreciate that, so that's just something you'll have to choose for yourself. Turn them off completely, leave some on, it's up to you. Being a fan of this game for so long, and having played it quite a few times in my life, I find that my point of view always slightly changes as I revisit it, as I mature and get older. And I find that this time playing the game, it felt a little smaller than it ever has before. I got to experience this game on my own terms and find every secret, and I have it fresh in my mind right now. And being able to see this whole game back to front, I realized that it is kind of a small game for a very experienced platform gamer. Now, if you're not as experienced, you're going to be dying just enough that it'll extend the play time of this game. And yes, there was some secrets that I had to look up and that I had to get help with finding, but it was really fun for me to find as many of them as I could over the years. And why am I saying this? Because in the past, these video games, if you wanted to know anything about them, you had to buy a magazine. You had to borrow it from a friend. You had to play it yourself. You weren't going to get spoiled, and it was an awesome time to play games and to find secrets on your own. So my point of view might differ from somebody who's deciding to give it a try for the first time, especially on my recommendation. That being said, the gameplay still feels amazing. I will say that seasoned platformer players will find value here. They will still enjoy playing this game. But there are a couple of nitpicks when it comes to certain hitboxes not feeling quite right, or certain gameplay not being snappy enough. Like when Dixie Kong throws a barrel, I don't feel like she throws it quite quick enough. When you're changing between vertical ropes back and forth, I feel like that rope switch is really slow. But all in all, it's an amazing game, and for being such an old game that was made in such a small amount of time, I think it's absolutely worth you giving it a try. And sometimes I wish it had more levels, and I'm sure that I'd be able to find a ROM hack out there with more levels in it. Okay, let's see what's on romhacking.net. Hey, what's this? This game defaults to mono? I've never played it in stereo? And for that, I'm giving this game a banana peel out of 10.
Okay.
It's a more swanky, updated version. I'm saying swanky because Swanky Kong is in the game. I would normally never say this word. And all these extra barrels are cannon barrels. There's a... will sequentially, what a strange word,